You can fight if you have something to fight for, but in most battles, nobody wins. Nobody wins a war. That's a classic phrase.
Mm.
There's only losers in that sense. Beyond the age of 13, you have to let them go. You have to let them go because 13 is the historical turning point for boys becoming men.
Mm.
If you don't let them go at that point and take a step back and act as a mentor and a guide rather than a dictator,
Mm.
there will be massive problems, especially with boys.
Mm.
Um, if they haven't learned what they need to learn by the age of 13, they will probably not learn it without some kind of extreme negative experience.
Mm.
Um, that's just the way that it is. It is far better that you go to your son and you say, I respect your freedom, so I would like you to come and tell me when you are going somewhere where it is that you are going. It would make my life easier. You don't have to, but it would be helpful. And on my side, I'm not going to ask you where you're going all the time because I know that
Mm.
you don't like it and you don't want it and you don't need it. So I'm going to
Mm.
give you that responsibility now, and you hand it over. You hand over the responsibilities of those things, and you say, look, if you don't want to tell me where it is that you're going, I'll be a little bit sad, a little bit disappointed, but that's my problem, not your problem. I might also be a little bit worried, because I care. So I'm not chasing after you because I want to know where you are all the time. I've got this responsibility as a mother and also a father to take care of you. I've got a legal responsibility as well. Like if you commit a crime, like I could go to prison, right?
Mm.
That's this is pretty serious stuff. So I know that you don't need me chasing you around, like wondering where you are. So look, if you come to me and tell me where you're going, it's cool. I'm okay with that. Um, let's
Mm.
let's let's step it up to the next level because you're not a kid and time flies and you'll be gone soon. So um, you can't build trust by punishing a teenager for being a teenager.
Mm.
That's not the that's not the way forward. Um, yeah, it sounds to me like perhaps your husband is laying the foundation for future conflicts because your husband can't back down because he's the father in his mind, and your son can't
Mm.
back down because he needs to prove that he's a man.
Mm.
And so, unless there is some change within the dynamic, it is a potential problem. It's good to be able to recognize the amount of positive interactions and the amount of negative interactions that occur. I think if we study it carefully, we're we're all usually slightly more negative than positive, unless we are very self-aware and we go through a lot of self-correction. Um, you're for example, self-aware people spend a lot of time on self-development and learning new skills or developing their present skills. Um, so if you're not learning things, it's a sign that you don't have a lot of self-awareness. And if you don't have a lot of self-awareness, you tend to get involved in a lot of situations of conflict because you can't see your own position. When you can see your own position, you know where the conflict will occur and you try to avoid it.
Mm.
You're always going to end up with conflict if you're not aware of how you fit into the bigger picture of things, and can see that uh, everything and everyone is different. Um, Students and masters. In general, children are seen as the students, and parents are seen as the masters. Um, However, intelligent people realize that as adults we can learn as much from our children as our children can learn from us. This is partly through seeing the experiences our children have, remembering our own childhood, and realizing the
Mm.
parts of our own personality that are reflected in our children. Your husband arguing with your son is basically your husband arguing with himself. The children of complete poverty are more motivated for success in life than the children of middle class parents. There's more drive, there's more to escape from. Yeah. And so very often those who are more traumatized are motivated to faster understand the problems and learn from them quickly.
And
Especially if
avoid.
they and avoid them because you very simply go in the opposite direction. Right? It's like this is a bad way, so I'm going to go this way, and hopefully it's going to be a good
Yes.
way, right? Um, yeah, it's you described your husband's childhood as good, probably because he described it as good. Now, that tells me that he hasn't processed the trauma of his childhood. He
Mm.
believes that his experience was pretty much the same as everybody else's experience. This is probably mirrored by the fact that you had a bad experience as well. So a husband
Mm.
who had a bad experience with his parents finds partner who had a bad experience with her parents and expects everything to continue. However, partner realizes the experience was bad and wakes up and changes her direction. However, husband is still living in the same mindset that he had 20 years ago. Life becomes progressively more difficult for those who grow up.
Mm.
And you are the character who has grown up, right? You've escaped the nightmare fairy tale. Okay, you've escaped the Disney Cinderella tangled whatever film you want to pick nightmare, right? Whereas your husband is still living trapped within the castle of his mother.
Mm.
You've climbed down out of the window and escaped, a la Tangled, the film, the Disney film,
Mm.
and your husband is still trapped in the castle, and
Mm.
thinking that everything is perfectly normal, um, as psychologically. So look at life is progressively more difficult for those who are more intellectual. Intellectual people have less people to converse with because there are fewer intellectual people than there are middle intellect people and stupid people, let's just say,
Mm.
or high, middle, and low intellect people. So um, it becomes a challenge because the challenge is how do I communicate to them in a way that they will understand me and in a way that they will understand themselves. Um, Point number one, you can't help anybody who hasn't realized within themselves that they need help.
Mm.
You can't. So this is part of the student, child, parent, master scenario, where um, a real master understands that they're always a student. Yeah. So parenting is not who you are; it's what you do, right? So it's not follow me because I am a father. It is follow me because I demonstrate the characteristics of what should be hopefully an alpha male dominant person. It doesn't have to be alpha male dominant, but that would be the stereotypical role model. Um,
Mm.
so so the you see it in martial arts, right? Where the master. You think somebody who gets like a black belt in karate. Well, like black belt is just the beginning, right? When you're at the bottom, it's like black belt is a master. But when you get your black belt, you realize you're still at the beginning. Yeah, and then you get up to your 10th Dan black belt, and you realize even then you're still at the beginning because it reinvents itself. If there's one thing that school teaches us, it's that when we get to the top, we go back to the bottom. Oh, it's a Beatles song. When we get to the top, we go back to the bottom of the slide and we stop and we turn and we go for a ride and we get to the top and then we'll be there again, something like that, right? Helter Skelter. It's Helter Skelter. It's the Beatles song. Yeah. Oops, knocking things off my table again. So being at a fairground and you climb to the top and then you slide down to the bottom. When you get to the bottom, you climb to the top again and then you slide back down to the bottom. And so life is those levels that I mentioned earlier, and we have to always consider the fact that we're a student. Parenting should be a verb, not a noun. Not a noun. Or parent should be a verb and not a noun. It's not who you are. It's what you do. And more than that, it's what you learn. It's and how you learn to be a better person. I was just saying to somebody yesterday that the one single thing that has made me a better person in my life is my children.
Yes, of course.
Because they challenge me to look at myself and realize what was good and bad within myself, and realize that there's more to the game, right? There's much more to the game. You have to work at it every single day. Every single day you have to work at it. Every single day you have to reinvent everything as if it were perfectly new, even though it's not. Every single day you've got to wake up and see the sun as if you've never seen the sun before. It's absolutely necessary. Yesterday I went for a jog. Today, it doesn't matter that I went for a jog yesterday. It doesn't matter. Past is dead and gone. It doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter? It doesn't matter because today I've got to do the same thing again. Whether I want to or not, I've got to do the same thing again. And it's about rising to these challenges every single day and realizing that it's not enough to just live on what we did yesterday. Today we've got to do the same things again. We've got to put our clothes on, we've got to make our food, we've got to eat, we've got to make phone calls, we've got to drive, we've got to pick up things, we've got to plan for the future. All the same shit we did yesterday, we've got to do again today. That's life, but that's no reason not to rise to the challenges and make everything better. And that's something that we have to teach our children as well, that it's necessary to embrace the future with a much more, I think, positive attitude than your husband is showing at the moment. Parenting requires work. It requires a lot of hard work on getting over not communicating to our children, not about the negativity within us, but about who we can become, and that connects with the limitless potential. And okay, well, there's things that we can't change and things that we can change. What we can't change is we can't eat what we didn't eat yesterday. For example, if we didn't eat yesterday, we can't change that. So if we didn't put nutrition into our body yesterday, we can't change that. We can have a new habit today, but we can't change what we did yesterday. In the same way, childhood, if you didn't get all the values and resources that you should get from parents when you're a child, if you didn't get skills of negotiation, I think that's one of the number one keys that you need to get from your parents, is the skill of negotiation. How do I handle problems in a mature adult way? How do I how do I seek solutions? Because life is just problem solving. You meet problems constantly, and you have to find ways to solve them. That's all that life is. And these are the main skills, the skills of negotiation that parents should give their children. Now, parents are not succeeding. They're not giving the children the skills of negotiation if they're arguing with them. They're just teaching dominance. Dominance. And it's never better to dictate than it is to motivate. It's necessary to seek motivational elements in order to educate and instruct children. It can't be done, especially post 13 years old, it can't be done with direct orders, because that's just like the army. And the army is a group of people designed not to think, but to say yes, sir, and follow the rules, which is necessary. If you're in the army, do that. But if you're not in the army, it's not such a good thing. How do we solve the problem? First of all, we're halfway there when we realize a problem exists. We're halfway there. We're already in the middle, because the starting point is just no awareness, and then we slowly become aware, and then we realize what some of the problems are. Then we have to take the next step, which is getting towards solving the problems. We can't change anything in anybody else. All we can do is change within ourselves, right? So the nagging habits, right? This idea that one person can change another person. It's impossible.